So now I'd like to introduce our next featured reader for today, Sharon Lask Munson. I've known Sharon for quite a few years now. I first met Sharon in 2012 when I was doing a local event called the Eugene Market at the Gateway Mall in Springfield. It was a holiday event with booths comprised of local businesses and crafts and stuff. And I shared my booth with a local Springfield bookstore, and we called ourselves the Holiday Bookstore. I had a table comprised completely of poetry books and local poets from Eugene, as well as some other Oregon poets. And each weekend, several of the poets represented would come to participate in an author book signing event at our booth to sell their books for the holidays. And Sharon was one of those poets who participated, and we became friends, and we've done several other events together since then, and it's always a pleasure to hear her read. She has a new book out that she will be featuring today, but I'll let her tell you about that. And I asked all my featured readers to give me a short bio, and this is what Sharon sent me. Sharon Lask Munson grew up in Detroit, Michigan. She taught school in England, Germany, Okinawa, Puerto Rico, and Alaska. She's widely published, has 2 chapbooks and 2 full-length books of poetry, the most recent, The Weight of Snow. Sharon thinks of herself as a storyteller. She says many things to motivate her to write. She says many things motivate her to write. A mood, a memory, the smell of cooking, burning leaves, a windy day, rain, fog, something observed or overheard, and of course, imagination. She has a pen that says, I make things up. So with no further ado, please welcome Sharon Lask Munson.
How was this?
Good.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Stephen and Charles, thank you so much. It's lovely to be reading here. When I decided to plan my poems, I realized, oh my gosh, it is November and I'm thinking of food because it's November and I love making Thanksgiving dinner. And so I'm including some poems that mention food. Could be about food, could just mention it casually, or it could hint. And when, whoops, there's a lot of $1 off on coffees here.
Don't worry about them.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm just gonna leave them there.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I got here, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm reading by the cookbooks. Which works for the first poem. Sear, simmer, stew. Read cookbooks like naughty novels. Try new spices. Cook with anise, fennel seed, cardamom. Cook your mother's sweet and sour cabbage soup on cold, bone-chilling days. Cook what your mother never heard of. Dream up something new and keep learning. Try a chickpea and sweet potato curry. Jot down recipes when traveling. Prepare drunken noodles from Thailand. Paella from Spain. Cassoulet from France. Forget fat-free. Measure or don't measure. Baste, blanch, caramelize, clarify, dredge, drizzle, fricassee. Go camping. Rustle up chili with beans over an open fire. Cook every day. Or cook when the mood strikes. Cook with your sister. Open the wine. Tell stories. Weep with laughter. The next poem, I have a neighbor whose daughter had a small, elegant restaurant outside of Minneapolis, and we stopped there on a road trip. We weren't allowed to order from the menu. She simply brought course after course. It was magnificent, and this poem came out of that dinner. Ensemble. The diners are passionately devouring, but it is the cook peeking through swinging doors who feels the fullness of roasted duck and plum sauce. A generous man, softly swinging his wooden spoon like a conductor at the helm of woodwind and brass. Grace, I loved when you read about Dorian's handwriting, because I am reading a poem about my mother's handwriting, and it was elegant writing. It almost looked like artwork, something about the generations, I'm sure. I still have pieces of her handwriting around the house, of handwriting. I inspect Mother's well-used recipe cards, search for stewed prunes in syrup, liver chopped with onions and eggs, broiled Lake Superior whitefish. The index cards are spotted, edges bent. A yellow birthday card is taped to the inside of my own 3-ring recipe binder. Sweets for the sweet, I read. Handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. Tall letters, elegant loops, all grace and movement. Copper bookends, made from a pair of my baby shoes, sit on the mantel. Inside the left shoe is a small scrap, my name written in bold cursive. Inside the linen closet behind towels is a shoebox filled with Mother's letters. Stationery made of heavy ecru linen, recorded in her favorite blue-black ink. She wrote, "Norman and Judith have separated. It's too bad people can't sit down and talk out their differences. Daddy said there's a plague in both the Democratic and Republican houses. We will make up our mind when the election is closer." So glad you like the yellow Afghan. I knitted a lot of love into it. You know, I don't really believe in guilt, but this poem makes me smile regardless. Twinge. The dime I stole from her hairpin jar smoldered in my hand all the way to Mason's ice cream parlor. The Dixie Cup vanilla treat went down smoothly, but I can still taste the wooden spoon. This next poem comes out of my father's mouth. He loved telling this story. It took place at the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. They certainly couldn't afford to stay there, but they splurged and had dinner. Dinner at the Grand Hotel. The evening was sultry. Heat and humidity strangled. Guests dressed according to edict. Coat and tie for gentlemen. Dresses for ladies. Ice dissolved in crystal. Salad wilted. Shrimp drooped in cocktail sauce. Chilled borscht warmed. No one ordered prime rib. Men loosened their ties. Ladies powdered flushed faces, fanned themselves. Conversation dwindled. Governor G. Menon Williams rose, unbuttoned his suit jacket, letting it drop from his shoulders, slipping the worsted wool to the back of the chair. Every eye was on the governor when the clapping began, increased with the force of intensity, advanced to a crescendo of approval as all the men in the room pushed back their chairs, stood, removed their suffocating jackets amid applause and laughter, and dinner progressed. He was a wonderful governor, not because of this dinner. 6 two-year terms. So, oh, a little courtship. Waylay. I ambush him with a shot of Jameson's. Add single malt whiskey to freshly brewed Cafe Del Mundo. Stir in a trace of sugar, hint of vanilla. Whip fresh cream to stiff peaks before crowning tall glass mugs. His hand, rugged and cold as glacial ice, warms. Through the picture window, we contemplate the snow-capped mountains of the Chugach Range. White on white, blue sweep of winter sky. Okay, my husband does not like cake. And so for his birthday each year, I make rice pudding. Note on the refrigerator. I've made rice pudding for your birthday, your favorite, sweet, smooth, studded with dark raisins, slow baked to a golden custard. Indulge me. Always the missing spoonful. And this was written after William Carlos Williams. This is something I overheard when I was a child. I didn't know any of the details, and I'm not even sure I remember it right, so it was my job to make it up. And I think it's a love story. Well, it is because I wrote it. It's a love story. Harold and Agnes. Late in years, my great-uncle suggested to a longtime employee she care for him until the end. If willing, she would inherit everything. Agnes agreed. For 12 years, she rustled up hot oatmeal each morning, chicken on Friday, waxed and buffed his kitchen floor, filled in at the poker table, played hostess to nieces and nephews. She held his hand and wept at his last breath at 96. She never moved from the house, spent little. She donated to the poor, endowed the community college, subsidized after-school programs. In death, what was left, she returned to the family. Falling snow, gentle as a kiss. Well, sometimes food is love. Sometimes it's a code. This is entitled Love Decoded. It's chilly today. Snow blankets the roof. The sky gunmetal gray. Real winter weather. Code for slow simmering soup for dinner. Rich beef broth studded with a rainbow of Walla Walla onions, diced tomatoes, thinly sliced zucchini, scattering of pasta, splash of red wine. Code for, I love you. I'll take care of you in my way. My darling leaves a package on the kitchen counter, a surprise wrapped in plum-colored tissue. Upon opening, I find a dark indigo shirt, the cozy flannel embellished with an embroidered teacup, surrounded by carefully stitched sprays of sweet peas, violets, ivy. Steam from the cup soars over the soft Pima cotton in the shape of a large red heart. Code again. Of course, not all marriages make it. Subject to division. Before another night of arguments, threats, ultimatums, she stuffs an overnight bag, tiptoes downstairs, steals out as the clock chimes midnight. After the separation, he claims ownership of the 12 place settings of blue Wedgwood he had once thought her extravagant to buy. Antique miniatures she had spent a decade collecting. Her grandmother's hand-crocheted ecru bedspread unfurled in the guest room upstairs. After the divorce, he feels he has the upper hand, potentate of possessions, trappings of bits and pieces. He moves through silent rooms, fondling, caressing. She asks for nothing, soars away light and unencumbered. That was not me. I have that bedspread. Okay, this poem, I hope I'm not stepping on toes, but everyone knows someone like this. Flight. Wonderful, I hear him say to the waitress as he holds the wine up to bright daylight, swirls the Cabernet, lifts the stem to his nose, closes one nostril, and sniffs. Closes the other, sniffs again. Chocolate, he calls out. No, cherry, with a hint of vanilla, he proclaims before taking a sip. He sucks in as if pulling through a straw, circulating the red wine throughout his mouth, pretending with the first tasting he knows more than he actually does. He holds the waitress captive as she rolls her eyes and listens impatiently to him pontificating upon wines he has sampled in Spain, France, Romania, announcing he sometimes sends a bottle back to prove his point. Hummingbird, iridescent lime and jade at my feeder. This was so fun to write. It came from a telephone conversation. The new woman. She telephones, speaks of her husband's best friend, arriving at their door with his new woman, 3 months after his wife's death. The revelation explodes through the air as she whispers details, while 700 miles away, I lower my voice in accordance, collaborating on what is acceptable after a 40-year marriage, mumbling about decency. Of course, it's ourself we're thinking of, tossing out numbers, the length of time a man should wait when a homemade casserole is hand-delivered, or pink straps slip from pale, plump shoulders. We dither between 6 or 12 months, agreeing that at least a year should pass before he thinks of a successor, plotting that very night to have serious discussions at our own kitchen tables, probably ruining 2 very good dinners. And if the conversations don't lead to satisfactory conclusions, we'll confer again, discuss large caliber handguns, razor-edged hunting knives, a bit of arsenic in steel cut oats. This needs no introduction. Checklist. Mostly, she talks, I listen. Her voice, the music of my childhood, the pitch, the cadence, all Aunt Mary. We talk of Molly's temper, Uncle Harold's triumphs, Norman's business failures, and whatever happened to Cousin Mildred's daughter, the middle one who went to Stanford and showed such promise. She tells me to buy canned tuna in olive oil at Trader Joe's. She tells me to stop spreading with schmaltz, it will kill me. At 90, she's a regular Fanny Bryce. After I'm dead, she tells me, Sheldon will pass the bar. Ruthie will meet someone and remarry. Call and let me know. 2 poems left. I loved teaching. Even now I miss it. Filch. End of the school day. She waters the lone geranium on the window ledge, washes paint jars and brushes, tidies shelves, wipes the blackboard, cleans erasers, places corrected math into a wire basket, slips creative writing papers into her bag to read that evening. She slides into boots, slips on her coat, hat, scarf. She reaches for the large, red, delicious apple for the teacher someone gave her that morning. The snack she planned to eat in the car on the way home. She sees one fair-sized, tooth-marked bite on the backside. Flurry of snowflakes. Through evening shadows, peal of laughter. And I'm going to end with a poem that was recently published in the anthology Recreating Our Common Chord, How We Speak to Each Other. Speak up. At 1.5 years, Clara uttered a word here, a word there. Water, mama, no. At almost 4, she speaks in complete sentences, displaying plenty of spirit when asked to smile at the cell phone. Mama, when I say no, I mean no. Avoiding giving an apology for spreading tall tales about a beloved member of her knit and sew group, my friend cries, I'm sorry for everything, real or imagined. Before mother's dementia progressed to a point where dialogue would no longer be possible, I state, you never laid a hand, not a slap, a belt, not even an occasional spanking. She nods and responds, you speak gently to a child. Children can't protect themselves. Thank you.
Very nice. Let's give Sharon another hand.